Okay, welcome once again to As a Matter of Fact. Welcome to our news channel. We want to appreciate you for doing that. We want to appreciate that you take off some time to watch our channel. Today on As a Matter of Fact, we have about 3 things that we're going to look at, but we are going to look at them in series. Every title is going to be a series leading to another, leading to another. So today we have 3 things that we're going to look at. We're going to look at the Operation Shujaa going on in the DRC, how Uganda has rescued hostages and reunited them with their families. We're also going to look at Paul Kagame accusing Tshisekedi for allegedly using the war in DRC to postpone elections. And finally, we shall look at the purple visit of DRC and South Sudan early next year. So that is what we're going to be zeroing on today. So sit down, relax, and enjoy the show. I am your host. So let's get started. Today we're going to look at, basically we're going to use 2 news channels. We're going to use Africa News, but also use Daily Monitor of Uganda as well to analyze the situation in the DRC, to analyze how things are moving on in the DRC and the operations that are ongoing. Okay, so we're going to start with the UPDF together with the DRC main forces, rescuing scores of people that had been abducted by the rebels. Okay? We all understand that Uganda sent in troops last year after the attacks that were in Kampala. The government of DRC and Uganda came into a pact that resolved that Uganda would send their troops in the DRC to ensure that they weed out allied democratic forces. Over 1,000 troops were put together and sent into the DRC, and you know, the Operation Shujaa began like that. So many things were done. ADF lost their grounds, they moved and scattered into different places, and you know, in one way or the other, the government of DRC and Uganda scored. Like we have been saying all over the time, there are over 120 rebel groups in DRC. And most of them, and if I may say, don't necessarily come from DRC itself, but sometimes from the neighborhood. For example, the Allied Democratic Forces, a Ugandan rebel group that operates in DRC to terrorize Uganda. So when Uganda was hit last year, the bombs that exploded in the capital Kampala, the UPDF was sent into the DRC to hunt for the Allied Democratic Forces. There was use of gunships, aerial gunships, there was use of heavy artillery, there was use of ground soldiers, or you can call them foot soldiers, and indeed, ADF were driven from their settlements, were driven from their original places, and scattered within the Eastern DRC. But majorly, their concentration was in the northern Kivu of the Eastern DRC, and that's where they were, you know, scattered from into other different parts. Others captured, others killed, and that's how it went down. Now, Uganda, together with the DRC, were able to rescue a number of people from these people. And there has been a process of trying to, you know, when you are abducted, some of these people are abducted when they are young. You know, young girls, young boys, women. So there's a way you lose your mind. There's a way these people sometimes tend to lose their mind. So when they were rescued, there was a little bit of a process of trying to bring back their hearts, to calm them down before they could be handed over back to their families. 57 hostages were rescued last week by the combined forces of Democratic Republic of Congo, but basically, you know, masterminded by the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Over 57 people were rescued. When Allied Democratic Forces was, you know, moved, was, you know, annihilated from their original places and scattered all over, it doesn't mean that they stopped carrying out their raids. So this group was able to abduct a number of people, but the UPDF, together with the army of the DRC, have been able to rescue 57 people. And some sort of rehabilitation has been done on them, and the right time came to reunite these people with their families, and that is what took place in the recent past, towards the end of this week, when these people were reunited with their families. The reunion took place in a place called Beni in North Kivu, where girls, women, and men were reunited with their families, and there was a lot of mixed reactions, a lot of mixed emotions from both the rescued and their parents. Some of them had injuries which were, you know, healing because they had been rehabilitated before being handed over to their families. But most of these girls in there were giving testimonies of having been sexually offended, having been sexually used by these rebels, okay? Some at the age of 14, 17, 20, women. You know, it's such atrocities that really rebels sometimes tend to do. Because by nature, when they're in the forests there, when they're in the wilderness, sometimes they don't have, you know, the conjugal rights as mankind. So whenever they abduct, whenever they get any woman or girl or lady, they usually want to use them sexually, and that's what happened with this team. Most of these girls were sexually abused, but nevertheless, much as some of them were not rescued, but a big number of about 57 were rescued and reunited with their families. And there was, you know, mixed reactions. Like I said, some were happy, of course, that their children came back, but sad because some of them thought they would never see their children. And these people also thought they would never see their families again. So, let me read for you an article from the Daily Monitor that was published on Sunday, December 4th, which is today, December 4th, 2022. Ex-hostages of DR Congo rebels reunite with their families. 57 former hostages of a rebel group in Eastern DRC, some young women used as sex slaves, were reunited with their families on blah, 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 blah. They were freed last weekend after a large-scale Congolese-Ugandan military operation allowed them to escape Allied Democratic Forces, one of the dozens of armed groups that are operating in the region. The Ugandan and Congolese, I beg your pardon. The Ugandan and Congolese armies have led an offensive against the ADF in the eastern province of North Kivu and Ituri for more than a year. Yes, so like I was saying, that Ugandan operation, Operation Shujaa, did not start yesterday. It's about a year since when the UPDF has been in operation in the DRC trying to, you know, to fight the ADF. So these are more like the fruits of the Operation Shujaa that we're seeing, that some of the abductees are being rescued at this point. The former hostages, mostly women, were reunited with their families during a ceremony in Beni territory in North Kivu. Kavura, not her real name, okay? So the article goes into the details, you know, of some of the atrocities that were carried out on these abductees and the lots of suffering that they really endured to the time that the UPDF, together with the government of the DRC, have been able to rescue them. So these people have been integrated with their families, and we hope that from there they are able to live a normal life than a life where you are doing things that you really don't consent with. That is especially when you are with the rebels. Literally, you are forced to do things. We remember the scenario of the Lord's Resistance Army, where abductees would be forced to slaughter other people, where they would also be forced to eat other people, where they would be forced to strangle, all sorts of atrocities that, rebels do. So sometimes they do it to make them battle-hardened. They do it to make sure that they lose that sense of humanity and see themselves as, their masters. So we pray and hope that these people have been or are going to be rehabilitated and will be, will henceforth live a normal life of their families, and hopefully that the same scenario does not repeat again. So the UPDF has been doing a great job in the DRC, definitely, right at the time of the Shujaa operations until now, when the 1,000 soldiers that we've been talking about for the operation of the East African force have also had their advanced team land in the DRC and are also in Goma. Now, there, I don't know how it's going to be done, because news have heard it that from different sources that also the KDF, or the Kenya Defense Forces, are also operating in Goma, but at the same time the UPDF is operating in Goma. So I want to think that they are both operating in Goma, but maybe, manning different areas of Goma province. So I want to think that that's how it is, and it is going to go as peaceful as they thought it would go. All right, now let's go to another topic that we had for you today, which is Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, has come out to accuse the president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Tshisekedi Felix, for allegedly using the violent and volatile situation in the DRC to postpone the elections.